What happens when a man starts a war and suddenly realizes the people he loves are standing directly in the line of fire? That is exactly where Fightland takes us in episode 4. Protect yourself at all times. Duke's plan to destroy Kingsley Marshall from the inside has already thrown London's criminal underworld into chaos. The casino bombing has pushed the Marshalls and the Russians closer to open war, but there is one major problem with Duke's revenge plan. He can't control what happens next. And by the end of this episode, the consequences hit closer to home than Duke could ever have imagined. A brutal attack. A relationship falling apart. A dangerous new connection with Kim. And then, in the final moments, a shocking kidnapping that could completely change Duke's mission. Let's break it all down. The episode opens with Duke and Zeke taking the fight directly to the Russians. They're searching for answers, but the confrontation quickly becomes a brutal display of power. Duke and Zeke make it clear that they are not afraid to retaliate, and the message they send is impossible to misunderstand. The casino bombing has changed everything. The Russians are angry. The Marshalls are preparing for retaliation. And Duke is still secretly manipulating the situation, hoping that the chaos will eventually force Kingsley out of hiding. But here is where Duke's plan starts becoming more complicated. The revenge he wanted was supposed to be controlled. He wanted to apply pressure, expose Kingsley, and finally make the man responsible for destroying his life pay. Instead, Duke has created a situation where everyone is reacting with violence. And once people start seeking revenge, it becomes almost impossible to predict where the next attack will come from. Meanwhile, the Marshall family is trying to deal with the business consequences of the casino explosion. Sabella is forced to step up, and the family has to think about its future while the threat of war continues hanging over them. At the same time, Zeke sees another opportunity. Duke may have spent years away from boxing, but he is still a former champion, and Zeke knows that Duke's return to the ring could create enormous attention. That idea becomes even more important when Duke clashes with Jack Hammer, one of Zeke's most marketable fighters. Instead of simply allowing the confrontation to disappear, Zeke sees an opportunity. The footage is captured, edited, and pushed into the public eye to create the impression that Duke completely dominated the encounter. Suddenly, Duke is becoming relevant again. People are talking. The social media attention is growing. And the possibility of a major fight between Duke and Jack Hammer starts becoming very real. For Duke, though, getting back into the ring is not as simple as putting on a pair of gloves. The episode reminds us that Duke is still carrying the trauma of everything that happened to him. He lost his brother. He lost years of his life in prison. And his entire identity was destroyed. Boxing used to represent everything Duke had. Now, even the idea of returning to it brings back painful memories. There is a difference between wanting your old life back and being ready to face everything that destroyed it. And Duke clearly isn't sure which one he wants. While all of this is happening, Joy reaches her own breaking point. She is tired of the chaos surrounding the Marshall family and wants a different life for herself and Aiden. So, she makes Duke an offer that could change everything. Leave with her. Take Aiden. Walk away from all of this. For a moment, it feels like Duke has a genuine chance to escape. He could leave revenge behind. He could stop playing games with the Marshalls. He could finally choose Joy and Aiden over the mission that has consumed him. But Duke can't do it. He is too deep into his plan. And more importantly, he can't walk away from Kingsley. Joy does not know the full truth about what Duke is doing, so from her perspective, his hesitation looks like something completely different. It looks like rejection. The relationship falls apart, and Joy makes it clear that she is finished with him. And honestly, this is one of the most important moments of the episode. Because Duke is constantly telling himself that revenge is the only thing he has left. But every time he gets closer to Kingsley, he seems to lose another piece of the life he could have had. Then comes Kim. Kim and Duke grow closer throughout the episode, and their connection feels more personal than Duke probably wants to admit. They both understand loss, pain, and what it means to carry something from the past that you can't simply forget. But there is one enormous problem. Kim is investigating Duke. She suspects that he was involved in the attack on the Russians, and she is not simply spending time with him because of their connection. She is watching him. The situation becomes even more dangerous when Duke discovers that Kim is an undercover cop. Now Duke has a decision to make. Does he cut her off? Or does he keep her close and try to control what she knows? Of course, Duke chooses the dangerous option. He decides that Kim could potentially become useful to him. But that decision may come back to destroy him. Because Duke's feelings for Kim appear to be at least partly genuine, while Kim is still investigating him. They are both hiding things from each other, and relationships built on secrets rarely end well. Kim also proves in this episode that she is not someone who can easily be intimidated. Her confrontation with one of the Russians shows just how far she is willing to go to get information. And that is another reason Duke should probably be worried. He thinks he can control the situation. But Kim may be just as unpredictable as he is. As the episode moves toward its ending, all of these storylines begin to collide. The tension between the Russians and the Marshalls finally explodes. During a major public event connected to the boxing storyline, the Russians strike back. The attack is fast, violent, and sends a clear message. Gazer is stabbed. Suddenly, the conflict Duke helped create is no longer something happening quietly in the shadows. The war is out in the open. But while Duke is dealing with the chaos at the gym, something even worse is happening somewhere else. Sergei breaks into Sesay's house. Aiden is there. And before anyone can stop him, Sergei kidnaps the child. Then comes the phone call. Joy contacts Duke in absolute terror. Aiden has been taken. And with that one moment, everything changes. Because Duke's revenge mission is no longer just about Kingsley. It is no longer just about settling the score for his brother. The violence he helped unleash has reached the people closest to him. And there is another huge question raised by Joy's desperate call. What exactly is Duke's relationship to Aiden? The moment strongly suggests that Aiden may be Duke's son, although the episode leaves enough uncertainty for that mystery to become even more important moving forward. Either way, the emotional impact on Duke is clear. This is personal now. Not that Kingsley's betrayal was ever impersonal, but Duke always believed he could keep his mission separate from the people he cared about. Episode 4 proves that he was wrong. His actions have consequences. And the people paying the price may be the very people he was supposed to protect. That's what makes Protect Yourself at All Times such an important episode. It slows the story down enough to explore Duke's relationships, his trauma, and his growing connection with Kim. But at the same time, it ends by raising the stakes higher than ever before. Duke wanted a war. Now he has won. The Russians are no longer going to sit back and wait. The Marshals are vulnerable. Kingsley is still missing. Kim is getting closer to the truth. Joy and Duke's relationship is in ruins. And Aiden is now in the hands of someone dangerous. The biggest question going into episode 5 is simple. How far is Duke willing to go to get Aiden back? Because the Duke we have seen so far is capable of almost anything when he feels he has nothing left to lose. But this time, he has something to lose. And that might make him even more dangerous. What did you think about that ending? Do you believe Aiden is really Duke's son? And has Duke's revenge against Kingsley now created a war he can no longer control? Drop your theories in the comments and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the conversation for more Fightland recaps, reviews, theories, and ending explained videos.